Before I begin, let me ask you two simple questions, and I want you to keep your answer in mind. What does the term equality mean to you? For many of you, it simply means everybody getting the right amount of respect they deserve. But for my next question, are we all equal? Or are there many places in the world, or the entire world for that matter, where some people do not get the right amount of respect they deserve? The right to a good and happy life should be within reach of anyone, no matter what race, religion, or sex you are. People want change, but more people turn away at the mere mention of the word. So today I'm going to talk about rights, specifically about the rights of women. While we can't take into consideration we've already taken large amounts of strides in the movement for the rights of women, many innocent women and girls around the world are still being mistreated. They're forced into labor and sex slavery, and they are denied the proper political participation they need, and education. Unfortunately, many of these girls are trapped in conflicts where rape is almost considered a weapon of war, meaning people have the right to treat these individuals as nothing but tools. Deaths related to pregnancy and childbirth are unnaturally high, and many of these individuals are not allowed to make deep personal decisions that can impact their life, such as aborting their child. How is this fair in any way? When considering women's rights, even decades ago, it was still very difficult to make it. It's a sad fact to know that it wasn't until 1848 that the first U.S. Women's Rights Convention was held in Seneca Falls, New York. Around that time, women that got married were seen dead in the eyes by the law, and they were not allowed to participate in any political events, such as voting. Then, it wasn't until 1916 that the first U.S. birth control clinic was built in Brooklyn, New York. This was started by Margaret Higgins Sanger, a leader in the movement of birth control. She was, however, arrested a few days later. However, she was released and started up a new clinic in 1923, also in Brooklyn. Emma Watson once stated in a speech she gave to the UN that Hillary Clinton once gave a speech in Beijing about changing the way people see the rights of women, starting small and how that will eventually grow into bigger proportions. 17 years later, nothing changed. Someone might argue that she just didn't deliver a very thoughtful speech. However, the reason why I think change hasn't occurred faster is because then less than 30% of the audience was male. This raises the question, how can we invoke change if no one is willing to change? In Morocco, girls that are raped are forced to marry their rapists. This brings up to the story of Amina, a 16-year-old who was raped and was forced to marry her husband, which ultimately led her to commit suicide, which raised a lot of political disagreement and a lot of commotion in the city. Because how in any way is this fair? We also nowadays have a lot of people who call themselves anti-feminists, which literally means they are against feminism. They believe that women create unnecessary problems while they avoid real issues. But what is a real issue? Isn't worrying about someone's well-being a real issue that should be taken into consideration? While I could keep talking about all the things that have happened in the past, I should focus on what we can do in the future and how we can change all these negative impacts. This goes back to my questions. Are we all equal? With not enough people trying to invoke change, how can we? Well, for starters, we can talk to people. One reason why we don't hear these common issues is because we don't allow these people to raise their voices. We practically tune out these people who have such problems because we don't think anything of them. Another thing you can do is actually do research on at the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights and get a better understanding what a proper human right is. But the best thing to do is simply get involved with organizations such as NOW and TEDxYouth and get a better understanding that being a feminist is not automatically a negative term. It simply means that you want change. In the end, women and girls around the world should be allowed the right to everything they need to live a healthy lifestyle. I advise all of you to talk with anyone, not specifically about the rights of women, but where the rights of others lie. Because how can we invoke change if no one is willing to change? Better question, do you want change? Thank you.